Welcome to the weather forecast on CIA TV channel. Dear friends, before we get started, please support us by liking and subscribing to our channel to stay up to date with the latest weather forecasts. In today's forecast, we're going to break down the essential information about the weather that will affect the United States over the next 7 days. We expect localized severe weather to continue this week. We're tracking a couple of stronger storms that could move into the Caribbean Sea as we head into next week. We have a tropical wave that has moved through Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, and now it's moving into Central America. It's a tropical wave, so we've got some scattered areas of rain. But some of us have been impacted. And then I want to show you what's going on off the coast of Africa and what we're looking at in the long term. Now, we're going to look at some of the heavier rains in the short term. So I just want to start with these scattered rains over Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Jamaica. Where we get them, some parts of Biz, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica and especially Panama, even some parts of El Salvador and Guatemala. We're going to see some spots with 100 millimeters, 4 inches and higher over the next few days. Watching those rivers and the potential for landslides. Now, as we look out over the tropical Atlantic, some small disturbances out there, some larger tropical waves hitting the coast of Africa. I don't see much development from them. It shows us here in the Caribbean. It highlights this area in the southern Caribbean, but again, this is just a computer model. It always highlights this area because it's usually rain and storms in the southern Caribbean. Especially in the eastern Pacific. There could be some developments. But I want to watch this one here. The southeast coast of the United States is just north of the Bahamas, across Florida. We'll see a couple of fronts nearby. There's a small chance of development through here. But overall, if there's any development, it's very likely it won't be tropical, it'll just spike north. But just watching the southeast coast of the United States, this is what's left of Faran. So it's collapsed. But off the coast of Africa, the European pattern is hinting at some developments. But in the short term, I think as these tropical waves move through, they'll slowly break up. There's a lot of dry air out there, although some of us still need some rain, but there's also a little dust. In the short term, it's more dry and stable, but as we move into the long term, I expect some development. Hurricane season as we know it's ahead, and in hurricane season, it goes through cycles. There might be a quiet week, a more active week, then a few quiet weeks, then a few more active weeks. So it goes through cycles, but we still have a lot of hurricane season ahead of us until November. So, looking back in the Caribbean, these short-term tropical waves, as I mentioned, are slowly disintegrating. You see, now, as we move up the coast of Africa, as they move across, they're still encountering dry, stable air. But as we get deeper into September, we're going to start to see things change. The dry air is going to start to mix. There's going to be a lot more moisture over our heads. That means things are going to be favorable for tropical development. So, in the short term, I don't see any named systems in the tropical Atlantic. But as we get into the first week, deeper into the first week of September, which is September 5th, you see a tropical wave here, not really developing, but it's sticking. That tells me that there's not a lot of dry air out there. That tropical wave is starting to stick. And then the models are really starting to develop these things. Now, back to the short term. The heavy rain areas. Some of the Central American areas that I mentioned. Scattered, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Cuba. And then tracking a little bit of moisture gives us a chance for some scattered showers. Guyana, Suriname, it's going to start to rain again. Some of that could pick up toward the Trinidadian forest as we move into tomorrow. Again, we're going to be tracking a few scattered areas of rain and storms in the southern Bahamas. Not as much as Jamaica. We'll have a few areas around, but still watching for rain, Costa Rica, Panama, Guatemala for some rain. And then as we get into the weekend, let's go into Saturday. And you can see what's going to happen here, some more little rain. And what I'm watching here again, it could be hit or miss, the Eastern Caribbean, but here in the Bahamas, you're seeing some rain. But there's going to be some more rain and then Honduras to the south. Now, moving north, watching those fronts move through Ontario and Quebec, and then watching that rain that I've been highlighting for the last couple of days. Some big storms are possible as well. Some parts of Arkansas, back to Mississippi, Bermuda, watching those fronts around that could bring us some showers. And it's looking pretty cold across the lower 48 states. Especially in the central and eastern two-thirds, where a strong cold front has brought much of the fall-like temperatures, lower humidity to the United States. You're feeling that again today across the plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and all the way up the East Coast from Florida all the way down to Maine. Some warmer areas remain across the Pacific Northwest and into Western Canada. That's where we're warmer than normal. Some spots are 20 degrees above normal for late August. And that's where we're headed this afternoon. And temperatures are in the 60s and 70s across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. And down south, temperatures are in the mid-90s in Texas. But those of you in Central Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, and South Texas are probably used to that at this time of year. There's still some warmth across the Pacific Northwest. But it's starting to taper off as we get deeper into the week. It could reach the 80s across the northern plains on Thursday and last through Friday. But overall, a pretty nice weather pattern is going to be in place for the rest of August with cooler than normal high temperatures in many places across the United States. Here, what's left of Juliet has disintegrated, but even a little bit of moisture is trying to creep into some parts of Southern California and western Mexico. Then as we move into tomorrow, you'll see these fronts around and you'll see another little front here that's trying to get closer to New Brunswick and back into New England. But that moisture is going to move north. Let's see what happens Friday night into Saturday, as it moves across some parts of Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, but more toward Newfoundland and the Avalon Peninsula. And here's that moisture again on Saturday. Just hanging around the Gulf Coast back into the Bahamas and tracking some additional rain with that next system that's going to move back across the plains. And then as we move forward in time, this is Sunday. And you see those spots lifting a little bit north. Not necessarily tropical, but some of that extra rain and a chance of that rain will come back to Louisiana as we head into Sunday. Now, this is the Eastern Pacific. Juliet has collapsed, but some of that moisture is trying to absorb. This is Baja. There will be more development in the Eastern Pacific. So if anything gets closer to Mexico or even Southern California, we've seen that over the last few years. I'll keep an eye out and keep you posted. But as we head into the weekend, just watch this storm move toward the Central Caribbean Gulf and the Atlantic corridors look pretty stable due to some stabilizing air currents. But keep an eye out for some thunderstorms that could make those waters a little rougher temporarily. So north of the Bahamas, the rain chances are higher back into Cuba. Even tracking south into Florida, some of those 3 to 4 inches of rain around scattered rain spots in nature. Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic. But where we're going, we could see some scattered 50 to 75 millimeters of rain spots in nature. Puerto Rico, St. Croix and Agata are moving back into St. Martin, St. Bart's, Anquilla. Rain chances are low. Could be capped by some showers over the next couple of days. Guadeloupe, Dominica to the south. A little closer to Trinidad and Tobago. And then the rain will pick up a little bit. Guyana and Suriname. Watch for some moisture moving east. But I showed you some of the bigger totals earlier. Even some of the Pacific side of Panama and Costa Rica could see up to 150 millimeters or 6 inches of rain in some areas. So again, watch for mudslides, flood potential right into next weekend. Western Mexico, Mexico City is going to get some more rain. but this is an area that I've been highlighting over the last few days. Looking at East Texas, Louisiana, back into parts of Mississippi, Arkansas, some higher totals. 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in some localized areas. So keep an eye on that flood situation. So Jamaica, today we have a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms. Tomorrow is 40%. That means not all of us. Some of us still really need some rain. Same thing as we go through the Cayman Islands. Scattered showers possible over the next few days. Trinidad and Tobago. Grenada 40 to 50% chance of rain, 40% chance of rain remains St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 30 to 40% chance of rain in Martinique and scattered showers around 30% chance of rain in Dominica. Down to 30% chance of rain in Guadeloupe. Rain chances remain low. Antigua Barbuda back to the northeastern Caribbean Street. Kitsanas Monzra gets a shower or two across Anguilla Street. Bart's Street. Martin Saba Stacha, minimal rain chances remain at 20%. We'll be back to Puerto Rico, some isolated thunderstorms around 30% chance and 20 to 30% chance towards St. Thomas towards Tortola. Bahamas. Although the northern Bahamas have a higher chance of rain and the chance of rain increases as we head into Saturday. The northern and central Bahamas. Turks and Caicos have a 20 to 30% chance of scattered thunderstorms over the next few days. Parts of the Dominican Republic, also watch for some of those scattered storms in parts of Haiti. Watch for river crossings, areas of scattered rain over the next few days in Belize, 20% chance in Aruba. Curaçao will have a chance of about 30% on Saturday. Same in Bonaire and about a 40 or 50% chance of rain in Guyana. 40% chance of scattered showers back to Suriname over the next few days. Cuba, some stronger storms around the western areas. Higher chance of some larger storms. Costa Rica and Panama are highlighting the continued threat of flooding. Nicaragua is seeing rain, especially toward the Caribbean coast. The chance of rain will increase. Honduras as well as we move into tomorrow. And 60% chance of keeping Guatemala and El Salvador and right back to Mexico City. Some areas will be flooded. 40 to 50% chance of scattered rain and storms across the Yucatan Peninsula. Merida towards Cancun. Well, north of Colombia, there's a 50% chance of rain and there's a 50% chance of rain. But north of Venezuela, Bermuda, keep an eye on these fronts. If they come together a little bit more, that could lead to a chance of rain. So a tropical wave near near the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, scattered areas of rain, but some of it will be very heavy, a little bit heavier Panama and Costa Rica. Thanks for watching and have a great time. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow.